Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, we are from group Halliday and SFL. Our group consists of 4 members. They are Kauna Karima, Ika Oktaviani, Nur Alfiana Isnaini, and Vita Agustiawati Putri. Well, in this video, we would like to discuss about Halliday and SFL. The contents that we covers in this video, they are Halliday and Introduction to SFL, Halliday's 3 meta-function of language, they are ideational, interpersonal, and textual, and then SFL for critical perspective, and the last one, criticism on SFL. Well, before we jump up to the core discussion, we have to know who is Halliday and what is SFL. Michelle Alexander Kickworth Halliday is a Master of Linguistics Australian-born British, known as the creator of the language model of linguistic functional systemic, or which is usually called as SFL. Born in Leeds, 13 April 1925, to school teacher parents, he was educated at Rugby, where the languages he studied were Ancient Greek and Latin. After the outbreak of the Second World War, he volunteered for the National Service. Foreign language training, Halliday was selected to learn Chinese, a language that had always interested him. He later saw war service in India, and after discharge in 1947, he went to China, there to pursue his studies on Chinese at Peking University. While there, he also completed a bachelor degree by correspondence from London University, and in time, he returned to the UK to complete a PhD in Chinese at Cambridge. And after graduation, Halliday taught Chinese for some time before he moved to Edinburgh University in 1958 to lecture in linguistics in Department of English Language and General Linguistics. This was a decisive step. Halliday was no longer primarily a Chinese scholar but a linguist, and it was from this context that he turned his attention for the first time to English. Well, next we are going to talk about introduction to Halliday's SFL. SFL, or Systematic Functional Linguistics, is an approach to language developed largely by M.A.K. Halliday and his followers during the 1960s in the United Kingdom and later in Australia. SFL is built on previous works of some influential linguists such as Bronislaw Malinowski and G.R. Firth. Bronislaw Malinowski was a Polish anthropologist who did most of his work based in England. Nowadays, the SFL approach is used worldwide, especially in language education, and for a number of purposes like discourse analysis. SFL does not tackle the matter of language representation or process in the human brain, but would rather try to see discourses produced in the form of written or oral language and what is contained in the texts that are produced. Because of the concern of SFL with the use of language, great importance is placed on the function of language, such as what language is used for, rather than what language structure is all about and the manner by which it is composed. Well, according to Halliday and Matheson, 2004, SFL is a broad term which covers various types of analysis, including the analysis of expression, the analysis of content, and the analysis of context. In SFL, a text is analyzed in 4 ways. They are context, semantics, lexicogrammar, and phonology. Context is classified as one of the central concerns because it is integral to the overall process of making meaning. In fact, when language occurs in a context, it will relate to or it link to a number of contexts. They are: the first is context of a culture, and the second, the context of situation, where the aspect of the context relate intimately to the language used to create text in terms of three important standards. They are: first, field that give us an indication of the topic or what is being talked about, and the second, tenor, that give us an indication of who is or are involved in the communication and the relationship between them. And the last is mode, that give us an indication of what part the language is playing in the interaction and what form it takes, whether written or spoken. Those variables help to explain how individuals' use of language is predominantly depend upon function. Within the language itself, Halliday and Matheson 2004 emphasize a dimension called metafunction, which consists of ideational, interpersonal, and textual components that will be explained more detailed by my groupmate after this section.
Next is about Halliday's three metafunctions of language. Metafunction is more complex than functions. Here, metafunction is to illustrate and to maintain the context and the discourse of speaker's ideology. Jadi dalam berbahasa tidak hanya untuk kepentingan conversation itself, interpretation itself, but to illustrate the context, untuk menggambarkan konteks dan wacana yang terkandung sebagai bentuk ideologi pembicara. There are three important things in speaking. First, construing reality. Second, building social relationships. And the third is arranging text. These are three built through three metafunctions: ideational, interpersonal, and textual. First, we deliver about ideational. To construe the reality through ideational, it needs field resources. Another term of field resources is transitivity process. According to Halliday, there are three components of transitivity process. First, participants in the process with variety of roles depending on the verbs they are related to in a clause. Second, the process itself: types: material process, mental process, relational process, behavioral process, verbal process, and existential process. The third is circumstance. The circumstance associated with the process: types, time, place, manner, etc. Kalau dalam conventional grammar, kita tidak mendapati ini. Dalam arti, dalam conventional grammar kita hanya mengetahui subjek, verb, dan objek hanya tataran yang sepadan. Sedangkan dalam SFL Halliday ini melibatkan sense of power, di mana proses yang dipilih itu menentukan power dari aktor-aktor yang terlibat. To get more understanding, look at the table, process and participant types. First, material, for example, make, destroy, give. Here, the verb is an action and event which the actor has the goal. For example, Jules pick up the prescription for her mom. Jadi aktor ini memiliki kuasa penuh atas suatu peristiwa yang ia lakukan untuk menggapai suatu tujuan. Next, verbal, say, scream, whisper. The teacher announced a test. The teacher here is sayer, yang mana mempunyai target announce a test kepada receiver. Jadi, sayer ini memiliki kuasa untuk mempengaruhi para pendengar atau penerima. Mental, think, believe, love. Mental is based on consciousness, berdasarkan kesadaran, di mana kesadaran atas suatu fenomena. Examples, Anna wants to go for a long run. Next, behavioral, the border between material and mental. Jadi di sini subjek sebagai behavior yang memiliki range. Relational, identifying and classifying. Token value atau bisa career attribute. Next, existential, the border between relational and material. Yang paling yang menjadi fokus dalam existential yakni ya eksisten itu sendiri. Jadi bisa disimpulkan bahwa the concept of transitivity in Halliday's theory is grammatical system, which is a powerful tool for analyzing the meanings expressed in clauses.
The next slide, we discuss about interpersonal metafunction. The interpersonal metafunction reflects the tenor, parameter, and enacts our personal and social relationships with other people we interact with. The interpersonal metafunction represents the idea that language can be used as a means of communicating information. It is also referring to the grammatical choices that enable speakers to enact their complex and diverse interpersonal relations. This tenet of systemic functional linguistics is based on the claim that speaker not only talks about something, but is always talking to and with others. Besides, Halliday also defined mood parallel to interpersonal communications, which embraces three grammatical categories of speech function: modality and tone. The interpersonal metafunction concentrates on social roles and relations through formality, degree, pronouns, clausal mood, whether declarative, imperative, or interrogative, and etc. In other words, the interpersonal metafunction allows us to interact with people, to create relation with people around us, to express our opinions about states or events. So next, we move to textual metafunction. When discussing the three metafunction, Halliday points out that the textual function has an enabling function with respect to the other two. It is only in combination with textual meanings that ideational and interpersonal meanings are actualized. The textual metafunction is that part of the meaning potential which makes a text into text, as opposed to a simple string of words or clauses. It thus involves phenomena such as thematic structure, information structure, and cohesion. Halliday argues that the textual function is distinct from both the experiential and interpersonal because its object is language itself. Through the textual function, language creates a semiotic world of its own, a parallel universe or virtual reality in modern terms. Besides, it also refers to the way we organize our message in order to integrate them in other message we say or receive in larger contexts. The textual metafunction is realized by the choices a speaker or a writer makes in combining the ideas and reality that he or she wishes to express additional along with the relationship that he or she hopes to project and develop the interpersonal. The organization of the ideational and the interpersonal plays a key role in developing what it is we mean and how we relate to those with whom we want to interact through language. Halliday states that the function of textual metafunction is specifically that of creating a text, of making the difference between language in the abstract and language in use. In other words, it is through the semantic options of the textual component that language comes to be relevant to its environment.
Okay, guys, here I would like to tell you about the fourth point, and it is about SFL as the critical perspective. The research of the media or text may use the SFL theory to gain the critical analysis in its language. Therefore, SFL is strongly related to the CDA. Besides, through SFL, the researcher will know about an ideology and the power emerge in the society. Jadi, biasanya seorang peneliti akan menggunakan teori SFL untuk mengkritik atau menganalisa secara kritik atau secara kritis tentang suatu teks, khususnya pada bahasa yang digunakan. Nah, ketika seseorang menggunakan teori SFL untuk mengkaji suatu bahasa, maka biasanya di situ akan muncul atau akan tampak ideologi apa yang digunakan oleh penulis. Maka SFL di sini sangatlah erat kaitannya dengan CDA atau yang sering kita sebut dengan Critical Discourse Analysis. Besides, SFL recognizes language as the system where the users may convey their meanings. From this, the SFL has the significant role to investigate the text by showing the functional organization of its structure. Nah, di sini dijelaskan bahwa dalam suatu teks biasanya penulis itu akan menyampaikan apa yang mereka inginkan atau apa yang akan mereka sampaikan kepada pembaca. Jadi di sini pembaca akan mencari makna apa yang ingin disampaikan oleh penulis. Oleh karena itu, teori SFL sangatlah penting dan memiliki peran yang sangat signifikan dalam menginvestigasi atau menganalisa sebuah teks. And the use of SFL in CDA is the alternation of the descriptive form while the researcher analyzes the text. Oke, selain itu, kenapa sih SFL itu banyak menginspirasi banyak scholars dalam CDA? Nah, salah satunya yaitu Fairclough. Dia beranggapan bahwa discourse itu seperti mangkok, yang mana isinya itu seperti power, norm, ethic, actor, and ideology. Nah, Fairclough juga mengatakan bahwa bisa jadi suatu kesenjangan kekuasaan atau ketimpangan kekuasaan di Indonesia belum tentu menjadi kesenjangan di Amerika. Oleh karena itu, analisa perlu dilakukan kepada teks baik itu di Indonesia sendiri ataupun di Amerika. Biasanya banyak dari peneliti yang mana mereka itu terlalu deskriptif atau mereka tuh interpretatif, yang mana mereka menginterpretasikan apa yang mereka pahami. Jadi tanpa melihat dari banyak aspek. Contohnya seperti mereka ingin melihat feminisme di Indonesia dalam suatu teks ini. Nah, mereka beranggapan bahwa feminisme di Amerika akan seperti di Indonesia, padahal itu tidak benar. Jadi di situ kenapa tadi untuk menganalisa sebuah teks kita menggunakan CDA, karena biasanya banyakkan dari peneliti itu hanya interpretif. Jadi, biasanya dalam suatu teori yang menggunakan SFL, maka penelitian yang baik akan memiliki aspek seperti bentuk, baik itu nominal atau verbal, kemudian fungsi, dan kemudian ada maknanya. Seperti yang telah saya sebutkan tadi, bahwa dengan SFL kita bisa mengetahui ideologi seseorang atau wacana yang disampaikan oleh seorang penulis atau seorang pembicara. So if we talk about CDA, so it is related to the discourse. And why? Verkov revealed that CDA will talk about the social wrong. So it must be there the social wrong in which one group is marginalized by others. And CDA also has two layers, and the first layer is language itself, and the second layer is social. Besides, systemic means that language is stratified within linguistic levels, including discourse, semantics, lexicogrammar, phonology, or graphology. Okay, now I would like to tell you about the weaknesses of linguistic functional theory. And there are four weaknesses. The first is in the syntactic level. In the language aspect, the functional idea doesn't reach widely the functional component. It also only mentioned the language structure but not the terminologies. The second weakness is in the sentence level. It doesn't explain broadly about the way to construct the sentence well. In the phonology and morphology level, it cannot state well and clearly about the functional linguistic element. And last, SFL also applied in education field, for instance in writing, but it takes time. So as we know that SFL also applied in the education field, especially in writing. But in writing, it has the weakness because it takes the time. And according to the three weaknesses in the previous point, in the syntactic level, sentence level, and phonology and morphology level, it relates to the structure of the function itself. And for the syntax, SFL also mentioned about the structure, and it doesn't mention about the terminologies. And for the sentence level, SFL doesn't explain broadly how to create the sentence well. Besides, in the phonology and morphology level, SFL cannot state clearly about functional linguistic element.
Well, that's all our presentation today. We hope that it will be beneficial for all of us. Thank you very much for watching. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.